Good evening. This meeting of the Municipality of Anchorage Platting Board Authority will now come to order. It is July 1st, 2020. It is 6:30 p.m. Due to concerns over large gatherings amid COVID-19 outbreak, community members are strongly encouraged to provide testimony via email or by telephone. Because of the federal, state, and local health department guidance and emergency measures, the assembly chambers are closed to the public. The Platting Board encourages anyone wishing to provide public testimony via telephone or to email planningtestimony@anchorage.gov 2 p.m. the day of the meeting. Please providing your name, phone number, agenda item number for which you are wishing to provide testimony. The subject line of an email should read phone testimony. The secretary will phone you at the number you provide. You will be given 3 minutes to provide testimony on an item unless you are representing a group or representative. Then you have 5 minutes. All the documents listed on this agenda are available online at www.muni.org/watchnow. The Platting Board meets each month on the first and third Wednesday, except holidays, as regular meetings. If we fail to complete our agenda for a given meeting, the Board will carry over the remainder of the agenda to the following meeting. The procedure by which the public may speak at this meeting is, after staff's presentation is completed on a public hearing item, I will ask for public testimony on an issue. People wishing to testify will follow the time limits established in the Commission Rules of Procedure. Petitioners and their representatives are given 10 minutes. They may reserve part of their time for rebuttal. Representatives of groups, community councils, PTAs are given 5 minutes, and individuals have 3 minutes. When your testimony is complete, you may be asked by the board or ask questions by the board. You may only testify once on any issue unless the board questions you further. Any individual may have appeal rights relating to any action the board takes. Appeal of this decision or any of the conditions is governed by Anchorage Municipal Code 21-11-304. The decision of the board at this scheduled public hearing shall become final 7 calendar days after the date of the decision is made on the record, unless a written request is submitted to the Planning Division prior to the expiration of the 7th day to prepare a written decision based on the record made at the hearing, and the request is accompanied by a written notice of intent to appeal. Adoption of the written decision by the Platting Board becomes the final appealable decision. Within 20 days of the final appealable decision, an interested party must file with the municipal clerk either a written motion alleging new evidence or changed circumstances pursuant to Anchorage Municipal Code 21-11-503, or an appeal of the board's final appealable decision under 2130. May we have roll call?
Clayton Walker.
Present.
Don Porter. Don Porter. Kevin Cross.
Present.
Mark Seward.
Present.
Valerie Ritz.
Present.
Jenna Weltzing.
Present.
Karen McGillivray.
Present.
Ms. Lipson is excused, and just a moment for Don Porter.
Heard him. Don, we can barely hear you.
It appears Don is using the microphone
through the app and not called in on the phone.
Okay, I did hear him. Yeah, and I see that. And do we know what the number is we want to? Dawn, the number is 343-6067. Next we will take up minutes. We have minutes from Wednesday, May 20th, 2020. May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Kevin Cross, move to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Kevin has moved to approve the minutes. And do I have a second?
Mark Stewart seconds.
Mark Seward has seconded. Are there any changes or modifications that need to be made? Is there any opposition to approving the minutes as presented by staff? Seeing no opposition, the motion passes. Next, we'll turn our attention to special order of business. Are there any disclosures?
Yes, this is Karen McElvray.
Thank you,
I'd
Karen.
like to request to speak.
What is your request, Karen?
I abstain from participating in the action summaries and in the minutes, and will abstain from participating in consent agenda item D4A case S12518, as I was not yet seated on the board.
Thank you. Are there any other disclosures? Okay, seeing no other disclosures, we'll next turn to informational items. Informational items, we have abbreviated plat action summaries from May 18th, 2020, June 1st, 2020, and June 8th, 2020. May the minutes reflect that those have been reviewed. We'll next turn to the informational item about reformatted Title 21 land use regulations for downtown Anchorage. Staff has a presentation on that item, and may we have staff's presentation now?
Thank you. So this is just for the board's information. Recently, on April 28th, the Assembly adopted an ordinance that brought the old Title 21 zoning districts, the B2A, B2B, and B2C zoning districts, which are the downtown zoning districts. They brought them into current Title 21 under new Chapter 2111, and it is primarily just a reformatting and integration of the old Title 21 downtown zoning districts into current Title 21. There are minimal changes to the actual text of the downtown zoning districts, and this is just to make the Platting Board aware that this has occurred, and if I can field any questions. And the ordinance went into effect on May 28th. So, if there's any questions about this, I can answer them. Okay.
The board members weren't able to hear that. It didn't come across the microphone very well. Could you give us a presentation once more?
Sure, my apologies. So this is just for the board's information. The downtown zoning districts, which previously were in old Title 21 up until May 28th, 2020. They were moved by an assembly ordinance into current Title 21, and there are no substantive changes to the zoning districts B2A, B2B, and B2C. It was simply reformatting and moving those zoning districts into current Title 21, but we wanted to make the board aware that now the downtown zoning districts are in new Chapter 11 in Title 21, so it's part of the current code. And this effort, or this moving of the downtown zoning districts to current code, was step one of a multi-year, multifaceted process to update the downtown zoning regulations in accordance with the Anchorage Comprehensive Plan, the Downtown Comprehensive Plan, and to implement that. The next step will focus on public involvement and stakeholder feedback to inform more substantive changes to the downtown zoning districts that would occur in step 3. So, and again, there are few if any changes substantively to the downtown zoning districts, but we wanted to make you aware that this has occurred, and I'm here to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for staff on this informational item? Seeing no further questions, we'll now move on to the consent agenda. We have one item on the consent agenda, case S12518. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? The next item of business is D4A, the consent agenda, case S12518, a subdivision request made by Olympus Subdivision Block 9, lots 23A, 31A, and 32A, requesting a clarification of our intent regarding our decision on item E from March 4th, 2020. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda so we can second it and then move on to discussion about it?
Kevin Cross, move to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Kevin Cross has moved. Dawn has seconded. Does staff have a presentation on the issue? Does anyone want to pull it from the consent agenda so we can discuss this matter? This is an item that, because they're asking for clarification from us, if we don't pull it from the consent agenda to discuss it, then we won't actually solve any of the movements.
Through the chair, this is Janet Weltzine. I'll make a motion to pull it from the consent agenda for discussion and clarification.
Thank you. Janet Weltzine has moved. And it is pulled now. May we have staff's presentation on this matter?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So what staff is looking for from the Platting Board is to just clarify the decision to provide intersection lighting only. And I believe that was, if we read through what you guys have there from Triad, that explains the situation. Basically what we're looking at is staff recommended, and I believe the board was in decision, it was decided as well that 2 streetlights would be provided within the subdivision at the intersections within the proposed development. So staff is just looking for the Platting Board to clarify the decision that that was the intent to provide intersection lighting only. It's fairly basic.
Oh, through the chair.
Yes, Jana, you have the floor.
Thank you. To staff, are you looking for clarification or some sort of motion?
I think they're only looking for clarification, and as I recall, my understanding of what we had agreed to is that they were going to put in 2 lights. They consented to putting in 2 lights, and our intention was to, in denying the variance from AMC 2108-50I, the objective was to deny their not putting any lights in at all, and that we intended to allow them to put in 2 lights. In reality, the 2 lights is, in fact, I guess, a variance from AMC 2108-50I. And what we probably should have done is said that we were denying the variance to put no lighting in exchange for putting 2 lights in at two intersections. That's my understanding. Is there anyone else in agreement with?
Mr. Chair, this is Sean O'Dell. I believe Dave Whitfield requested to speak. He may add something to this discussion.
Thank you. Dave Whitfield.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to clarify the request here. The variance request was to not provide street lighting for this subdivision, as it's in line with neighboring subdivisions and not providing street lighting. However, the board decided to deny the variance, but the findings that were placed on the record that evening suggested that street lighting should be provided at the intersections only, which I believe the applicant was amenable to. So what staff is requesting of the board tonight is to verify that the board is requesting intersection lighting only, and that continuous lighting would not be required. So we would like findings to that fact, if you could put that on the record.
Thank you. I do have comments from Kevin Cross that he has written in that says he also agrees and recalls that there were only to be 2 lights and at the intersections. Are there any other members of the board that would like to?
Mark Seward, I request to speak.
Mark Seward, you have the floor.
On page 2 of this packet, it would be the questions for the petitioner about the 2nd or 3rd paragraph down. I asked the petitioner's representative, Mr. Hale, the question on that, and it was clarified that 2 lights, there will be one at 99th and one down at the other corner, and they're perfectly willing to do that. They think it's a good idea. And that was my recollection. That's what we approved, and that's what everybody agreed on. So I hope that helps clarify the situation. If we need to go to a vote, I'm in favor of this situation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Through the chair, Dave Whitfield again. If you wouldn't mind, I'd like to speak real quick.
Yes, Mr. Whitfield, please.
Thank you, Chair. I would ask that the board consider voting on this particular item to require street lighting at the intersections only. I think that it would clarify the situation well for us and give us direction in terms of how much lighting is required with this. If you're just opening it up to discussion and giving opinion, it doesn't necessarily mean that the board has consensus on this issue. So I would ask that you vote on it so that we can have clear direction on moving forward. Thank you.
Mark Seward here.
Yes, Mark Seward.
I'd like to present a motion on requiring 2 lights, one at 99th, one down at the corner. I don't have the exact situation. It's at the far end of it there, and that's what we agreed on before, and I will be supporting that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to clarify, I think what we're saying is that we are granting a variance from AMC 2108-0501 street lighting to provide street lighting at (99th Avenue and the other one at 100th Avenue. 2 lights. And Jenna Welton, I believe you're going to second. I see you've typed one in. You have the floor.
Yes, I'd like to second that motion. That is my recollection as well. And I think that the maker stated all the reasons correctly on the record. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other board members that wish to speak tonight? In that case, I will call the vote.
Chair Walker,
Yay.
Mr. Porter,
I have to abstain. I'm unfamiliar with the case and was not present.
thank you. Mr. Cross,
Approve.
Mr. Seward,
Approve.
Ms. Ritz,
Approve.
Ms. Weltzing,
Approve.
and Ms. McGillivray has abstained. Thank you.
The motion has passed. We'll next turn our attention to new business and take up public hearing case number S12559, Panoramic 2 subdivision, tract A through E and lots 2A. May we have staff's presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a request to subdivide one lot into 1 lot and 5 tracts with a variance from AMC 2108-030L1 with lot frontage and access. All lots shall have frontage on a street. So this request is being made to line the property boundaries with the existing multifamily apartment-style complex buildings for NeighborWorks Alaska in order for them to take fee title ownership of the tracts and Alaska Railroad to remain the remnant lot, as this is a 409-acre subdivision. The Alaska Railroad has a blanket permit that allows for municipal maintenance and operations of all utilities and roadway facilities that are in roads, and the Alaska Railroad cannot dedicate right-of-way without state of Alaska legislative approval. Because of that existing condition, a variance is requested for lot frontage and access. In short, this would be just an abbreviated plat. However, because of the Alaska Railroad blanket permit and them having to request a variance, therefore that's why it's in front of the Platting Board tonight, even though it's a short 5-tract and 1-lot subdivision. So the owner is petitioning for a variance to lot frontage and access. The property is zoned R4, and the proposed tracts and lot meet the minimum lot size required by the zoning district. There were no objections by reviewing agencies to the variance request for the lot frontage and access. In the matters of, right-of-way dedication is not required since the existing Hollywood Drive, Elm Street, Ivy Street are able to continue operating under that railroad blanket permit. So in the matters of the variance request, staff finds that Standard 1 is met. Strict application of the subdivision regulations would be unreasonable as the tracts have lot frontage and access to a road that is municipally maintained but not in a dedicated right-of-way. Staff finds that Standard 2 is met. The only tracts affected by this variance will be the proposed lots within this subdivision, and they are under the blanket permit for access. Standard 3 has been met. The subdivision of tracts will provide legal and physical access to all tracts within the proposed subdivision. The intent of the subdivision regulations is being met and will not have the effect of nullifying the applicable regulations. Standard 4, staff finds has been met. Undue hardship would result from the petitioner from strict compliance with the subdivision regulations. The municipality cannot ask for the property owner to conform to the regulations of lot frontage and access under the existing blanket permit, which prohibits the dedication of right-of-way without the state of Alaska legislature approval. With that, the department then recommends approval of the request for the variance from lot frontage and access and approval of the plat for 24 months. And both those A and B conditions are found on page 6 of the staff packet. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for staff at this time? Seeing and hearing none, may we have a staff petitioner's representative?
Yeah, this is Tony Hoffman with the Boutte Company, and I am representing the railroad in this case. Can everybody hear me?
I can hear you. Thank you.
Okay. So staff has done a good job with the package. It's a pretty straightforward plat once you understand how why the variances came about and why we need them. The railroad doesn't want dedication over that property. And the area's, operated under the permit for years, and it will continue to do so until the railroad is out of the area completely. So that was the need for the variance. We agree with all the conditions. Of course, there's very few, and I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you. You have 9 minutes and 25 seconds for rebuttal.
Okay.
Does the board have any questions for petitioner's representative? I don't hear any questions for you at this time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I will now open it up for public hearing. Are there any members of the public that have scheduled to speak this evening?
Yes, and I'll call them now.
Thank you. We'll make the call now.
Remember, you must now dial 1 plus your...
Hello? Hi, is this Jennifer Harrison?
Yes, it is.
This is the Platting Board calling for your public testimony on case S12559.
Hello?
Are you calling as an individual or a representative of a group?
Individual.
Okay. If you could state your name for the record, you'll have 3 minutes to begin.
Okay, right now?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, my name's Jennifer Harrison, and I wasn't necessarily calling about the railroad variance. I just got the notice in my mailbox, and I wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of a very dangerous situation that's happening on Ivy Street in Hollywood. They're allowing parking on one side of that street, and it makes the road extremely narrow, especially in the winter. We've almost had multiple collisions. I mean, luckily we're only going, 20, 25 miles an hour, but it's a very dangerous situation. I'm not quite sure why parking is allowed on Ivy Street and Hollywood Drive, because those streets are like kind of abnormally narrow. And so while you guys were looking at this lot, I wanted to bring that, I guess, to the Platting Board's attention before they add, while they're making changes and decisions. So that was really all I had to say.
Thank you. And does the board have any questions? I didn't catch your name. Could you please restate it for me? Is she gone? Jennifer Harrison?
And Jennifer, we do have a little bit of feedback. If you could mute if you're listening online.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how to make that. I couldn't hear if they had any questions or comments for me.
I don't think we have any questions for you, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay.
We'll take our second caller.
Thank you. That concludes public testimony.
Okay, that concludes our testimony. We'll now return to petitioner's representative. And would you like to use your rebuttal time?
Yeah, this is Tony Hoffman again. If I heard her correctly, and it was a little difficult to hear, I don't think the subdivision we're contemplating, these lots, this subdivision is not creating any different of a situation as far as density, traffic load, or any improvement other than what will be able to happen on site onto the buildings themselves. So we're really, if there's a, if we go back to the thing, if there's a problem with the way the parking is or the traffic at the intersection, that's really kind of a right-of-way enforcement problem. And that it can be dealt through the appropriate channels at the municipality. So we're not contemplating any improvements into the right-of-way, any additional traffic, anything like that. So this is strictly to facilitate the neighbor works to buy the property from the railroad, and then they can proceed with getting grants to start improving those older buildings. So that's all I have.
Thank you. With that, does the board have any questions for petitioner's representative? I don't see any questions. With that, we'll close the public hearing, and the matter now rests with the board. May I have a motion to approve the request for variance from AMC 2108030L1, the lot frontage and access where all lots shall have frontage on a street for tract A, E, and Lot 2A, subject to condition 1.
Yeah, this is Mark Seward.
Yes, Mark Seward.
In case 12559, panoramic view sub, tracks A through E and lot 2A, I wanted to put in a positive variance request for 21.08.030 L.1.
Thank you. And do we have a second?
Kevin Cross here, I second.
And Kevin Cross has seconded. And just to clarify, the motion is to approve the request for variance as written on staff's packet, page 6, item A, and
Correct.
The condition 1. Would you like to speak to your motion, Mr. Seward?
Yes. Private development finds the roads are improved to MOA standards. I see all departments have either no comments or they have approved the request. It looks like all 4 standards are met that I agree with. Legal and physical access will remain to all lots in this subdivision. And per the Alaska Railroad blanket easements, and there's actually no physical changes. Nothing will be changed from what's happening last week to next week on this property. I will be supporting this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else who would like to speak to the motion on the floor?
Kevin Cross here, just speaking to the variance request. I think it's important to point out that these buildings were built in the early 1950s, and that the layout of the building, as noted in the variance request under conditions 1 and 2, just the way these buildings are designed on here doesn't make it realistic that they face the street. So considering that this is just basically replatting and taking the 4 individual buildings and putting them on individual lots without anything else being altered, I will be moving to approve this variance request.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the board who would like to speak, make any findings? Seeing and hearing none, we'll go ahead and call the vote.
You might as well stay here. Chair Walker,
Yay.
Mr. Porter,
Yay.
Mr. Cross,
Yay.
Mr. Seward,
Yes.
Miss Ritz,
Yay.
Miss Weltzing,
Yay.
Miss McGillivray.
Yay.
Thank you.
Thank you, and the motion has passed. We will now turn our attention to oh yes, and we need to have a second motion. Second motion is approval of plat for 24 months with the resolution of the utility easements. May we have a motion?
Yeah, Kevin Cross here. In the case of S12559, Panoramic View Subdivision, Tracks AE and Lot 2A, I move to approve the plat for 24 months, subject to the following condition of resolving utility easements.
Thank you, Mr. Cross. Do we have a second?
Mark Stewart seconds.
Thank you, Mark Seward. Kevin, would you please speak to your motion?
Yes. Just sticking to the staff packet, as far as the variance request on pages 5 and 6 of our packet, it's very well established here why the variance is being approved, and this is just a house cleaning item, just working to approve the utility easements. Again, the buildings were built in the early 50s, and so we're just cleaning up some lot lines. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other findings the board would like to make? In that case, we'll go ahead and call the vote.
Chair Walker,
Yay.
Mr. Porter,
Yay.
Mr. Cross,
Yay.
Mr. Seward,
Yes.
Miss Ritz,
Yay.
Miss Weltzing,
Yay.
Miss McGillivray.
Yay.
Thank you.
And that motion is passed. We'll now turn our attention to reports, and I would like to announce that we have a new board member, Karen McGillivray, and unfortunately I haven't had a chance to meet her myself, so I don't have an introduction to make, and I will give her the floor to introduce herself. Ms. McGillivray.
Hi, my name is Karen McGillivray. I'm a lifelong Alaskan, born and raised. I work at engineering consulting firm Michael Baker International here in Anchorage and Midtown, and I'm excited to be on the board.
Thank you, and welcome, Ms. McGillivray. With that, we have concluded the agenda, and we now stand in adjournment. It is 7:10.
Great. Thank you all.
Thank you. Have happy 4th.
Thank you. Bye, guys.